Well, after getting this rear panel installed last time, the last thing I need to do is match all my joints here, and we have different stair steps in joints. We're beveled where this top iron comes down, then we go straight where the seat arm comes in, stair step in, and we're straight where the seat frame comes in, and then this has to be beveled off to match the contour of this side panel. So we're not too far off other than the bevel on the lower part here. I've got a little more to trim here. And you can see this needs to be stair stepped in to where the seat arm comes in, and this is square with the body. And I need to stair step this in also. And this little section here is what I was referring to that is straight for the seat frame. From here down, we just bevel it off. So with the rear panel all kind of trimmed in, I'd like to put my back support irons for the top back on so I can get my top off of this little prop that I have. But before I put the irons on, I need to put this back seat on because it fits underneath the iron. And before I put this back seat on, there needs to be a frame that goes across the back. So you can see this is the rear frame of the rear seat. You can see it's notched out for the seat panels and how it's notched out for the rear framework on that back curve. Well, underneath this needs to be another piece that's added for support of this rear frame. And that is 1 inch thick by about 2 inches wide. And I scrounged through my scrap pile and I found a piece that is 1 inch and 2 inches wide. So I think that's what's going to work, but it needs to be cut at a bevel. So it needs to fit across this area here, and then this needs to be beveled to be in line with the framework on the body that carries the seat. And without getting into a lot of fancy calculations, I'd like this point to be level with the frame on my body that's going to carry that seat, and that's the angle that I need it to be. I just need to measure that angle so I can set my saw. So a quick check here. Be about there. Looks like we are 10, 20, 30 degrees is what we need. That should work, and this gets just screwed into this back framework. So if you remembered earlier, I mentioned that I need another 3/8 panel laminated to inside of this step through place here, so that I have 3/4 inch thick that I can put an 1/8 inch iron. So this is the corners that I cut out of my panel here when I cut the curve in to get ready to bend them. So I can make use of that and fit those right in here. And being 3/8, I think they will generally pull into shape. And they need to fit the profile of this frame, this vertical and this cross frame, so it doesn't come up flush. So I need to step this in. And sometimes this takes me a couple times to do this to get it worked in. I'll trim this out and bring it in a little further until I get this up against this framework also. One step at a time. Yeah, something about that category. And then this is going to joint here, just kind of a butt joint into this front section of this step through place. So I can put that kind of anywhere, usually at the kind of the low spot. I'll try it in this area here. And I want to kind of match this profile. Cut it a little strong as usual. That should just pull right into place. Don't glue that yet until I get this front curve fitted in. But since the seat in front is fastened to my prop that's holding up my top, I don't want to move the seat yet, but I can file this flush and kind of get this tuned into my back seat on both sides. And then I can remove that prop to the top and get this front one in. Then this will all be fitted and I can glue it in after this seat is already in place in the rear. Drill my holes through this back panel while I can still get to it comfortably. So on the outside of this body there's going to be a 1/4 inch thick trim that is going to be kind of this width here, about 1 1/8 inches. That's what's going to cover up all these screws. Well, there's a trim here as well. It's about 1 inch. Well, this is going to be somewhat straight, but this has to curve up into this area as well. I'm just going to kind of freehand this in here. I'll have to get this a little more accurate when I get closer to this point. There's going to be somewhat in this area here. So this framework comes straight back into the rear frame here. So where this takes off of the frame, I need to put another 3/8 panel inside here as well, so that when this is tacked in place, it has more than just a 3/8 thickness to nail to. It'll actually have a 3/4 inch thickness to nail to. So I need to reinforce that inside also. So I have some of these pieces that were the cutouts for my step throughs. I'm going to try to fit those in there for my reinforcement. I think maybe I can just split this in half and then fit this into there, I'm hoping. So, see if I can't contour this to my rear frame here. Or maybe the shape of that iron will be pretty close to the shape of my frame since it's fitted up. I think I'll try that. I think that'll work. If you look at the old ones, they didn't leave them square. I kind of contoured them up kind of in that category there. Something like so. It's just a backing plate, so I have more thickness for those nails to attach to. I'll glue that into place. And the other side needs it also. So these corners need a few hours to set up because it's basically just the glue that's going to hold those until the trim gets nailed into them, but the glue mainly. So I can't put this seat on yet. I don't want to move this seat because of my top being supported by it, but I can work on the front. So all these entry points need to have a second plate put in, and sometimes I can use these little scrap pieces to fit in here. With a little modification, I think something like that might work. I might be able to use the inside of this curve as my pattern, maybe about in there. And I'll have to figure out where my straight frame comes in. And this angle gets to be kind of interesting. It has to be beveled because this is coming in at an angle into the square face. So once I get this fitted, I actually have to bevel it so this can lay off to the side. One thing at a time. Try this. This is my corner. It needs to sit into this frame. You can see the angle there that this needs to be. But if I set that there, see, I'm not quite tall enough to come up here. I have enough room here, I can move that forward a bit. Let me try that. That'll give me a little deeper here. Corner. I should have enough height here. So if I kind of lay that there, and get the angle, try to line up where my flat frame is. From here to here, maybe. That gets me really close. Maybe I need to go just a little more. About an 1/8 inch there is all. That gets me right in there really close. This is kind of the angle that I need to bevel this at. That'll come in a little tighter. Oh, that's a nice tight fit. I'm going to clamp that in place. I think that's a nice fit there. I'm still strong here. Take a little pressure off of that by trimming that down. Let's see how that fits. This actually needs to be trimmed to where it is flush here, so this is going to come back a bit, and I'm extra deep here. So this will get trimmed a little more yet, but that's a nice start. Now I just need to fit this back portion into the front of the first seat. Kind of mark where this joint is going to be. I'd like this one out of the way when I fit the back one. Well, it's kind of hard to show you all this close up without you noticing my thumb, and you probably have experienced black thumbnails before. Well, I've got kind of a doozy here. When I was going to pick up that bucket truck, I had 14-ply tires on that white van box trailer that I use so often. And I wanted them on my flatbed trailer just because they were heavier. I had 10-ply on my flatbed and 14 on my big van box trailer. So in the process of swapping the tires from one to the other, I was positioning them on my flatbed trailer, and I was trying to push one into place and running the floor jack with my left hand. And you're not very sensitive with one hand on these floor jacks. It's oftentimes all or nothing unless you two-hand them. Well, I was running it with one hand, and I had my thumb on the top of the tread trying to push it into place, and I dropped the trailer on my thumb, and I was stuck. I couldn't get it out. So I was trying to run this jack left-handed and get it back up, and I did, but that rascal kind of hurt. Well, it, did what these things do, and I worked and worked and worked and got a lot of the blood out of it. You can see it's off to one side, and it really wasn't looking too bad. You may have noticed it in some other past videos, but it wasn't as bold as this. Well, a couple days ago I was changing the oil in my truck, and of course it's black, and that black oil got up underneath this thumbnail, so now it's really pronounced. There's no way that I can really kind of hide that. It's going to come off, and I bet I have a year or better before this grows back out. But that's the story about my big old fat ugly thumbnail. So I think it kind of gives you a flavor of what these step-through places have to have done to them. And it is challenging to fit all these in the curve, as you have seen. It's even more challenging when I come to fit the iron on that, because it has to twist sideways and it has to roll this direction besides the curve. We'll get into that soon enough, you know, and this is kind of a distinguishing between personality type thing. I don't know that it's maybe so much a skill level, but it definitely is a personality. Some people are meant to be framers, if I can use house construction as an analogy. Framers generally are not finished carpenters, and there are varying degrees between qualities of finished carpenters. Some would say it has to look like it all grew out of one tree. Others would say, yeah, putty and caulking will make up the difference. But this is kind of that finished carpentry type of deal. I'm going to let this set up. I'll do these center ones here to where I can get the seats in place and get these shaped down for the ironwork and get that back seat installed. Anyway, I appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.